someone moderate. Sorry.
That's okay. I guess, yeah, I'll be a little closer. That's good. Are you good?
Ready?
Good. Speed.
Good. Okay. And if you guys can tell me your name, your age, and what it is you're doing here today.
Sure. My name is Adora Spitak. I'm 13 years old, and I'm here at Fullsailinterview University to talk about the importance of reciprocal relationship between kids and adults, what each can learn from the other, and technology and education.
My name is Adriana Spitak. I'm 14 years old, and I'm here at Fullsailinterview University to perform piece by Liszt and piece by Chopin on the piano.
Can you both tell me what you do outside of just doing this, like a generalization of what you do?
Well, I do quite a few things on an everyday level. Then I go to school. I do take classes. I also teach other kids about reading and writing through video conferences. An average day I might give a presentation to other kids. I might take a couple tests online. I go to an online school. So that's kind of what an average day looks like for me. On a general way, I have a few issues that I really promote, like for instance literacy, loving learning, as well as I work to fight world hunger with the World Food Program, so a lot of volunteerism, a lot of charitable issues.
I spend my time, first of all, I do part-time online school and part-time public school, so I do about half the day, or half school day, going to the high school, and half school day online, like usually in the middle of the night I'm doing homework or whatever, and then the rest of the day I spend practicing a lot of piano, like about 2 hours, and I've been trying to work on singing and sometimes guitar, and occasionally violin if I have time to practice. Other than that, I sometimes draw, write poetry, other things related to arts.
How often are you traveling around giving these seminars and speeches?
I travel pretty frequently. I would say every few months. It kind of depends on a lot of education conferences. For instance, might happen at a certain time. I go to an education conference in the summer usually to speak, and usually 1 or 2 in winter and fall. This year has been especially busy because after my TED Talk came out, a lot of people saw that and were interested in having me speak. So this year, for instance, I'm here in Florida. After that, I'll be going to Houston, and after Houston, I'm going to Calgary to Toronto, and Toronto back home to Seattle 4 days, and then we head off to Mexico City, Nice in France, and to India. So that's not average, that's just an example. Usually that kind of thing might take 2 years as far as that many trips, but it's kind of been compacted into a couple months.
Do you both usually travel together?
Sometimes. I've just recently started traveling with my family because last year was kind of difficult because I was all in public school, so I didn't really have any flexibility with that. But this year, since I'm doing part-time, then I can travel more, and it's easier to travel with them. So yeah, I'm traveling with them now.
Most people your age will spend most of their time just they're in school, they're doodling on their pads, and they're writing down song lyrics. Do you ever wish you could lead a life more like that?
I don't really envy kids who, walk into school every day, and I mean, for one thing, at a basic level, I don't want to get up at 7 a.m. It's just way too early for me. But on a more deep level, I think that the way that a lot of learning goes on in the classroom today is inefficient, and if I already know some of the material that's going to be covered, I feel like I could probably be spending that time better accelerating, possibly doing extracurricular activities, talking to other kids about reading and writing, really being of service to the world. It's a commonly held idea that you have to wait until you grow up to do things, but I don't think that that's the case. And so while I lead a kind of, well, definitely not exactly your ordinary childhood where I'm going to speak, I go to all these countries, it's also one of lots of opportunities I wouldn't really heavy because a lot of kids in my class haven't gone outside of the state, even outside of the country. And here I am jetting off to different continents. So it's the opportunities. And another thing is I do have the opportunity to lead a normal life. We went to the Epcot Center, Disney World, we went to Universal Studios here in Florida. We go swimming on the water slides, and I also go to regular school part-time. So I have both experiences, and I'm able to have both the normal childhood as well as so many opportunities.
Now, I read a lot of articles about you pertaining to you mainly. How does it feel to be dubbed a prodigy?
I don't really like the term. Well, my family always makes fun of it. I think that it's kind of overhyped. I think that when kids are able to accomplish more, I mean, we don't call every single kid who can accomplish more than, say, some of their peers a prodigy. It's just that when you're well known, and that's the term a lot of people reach for. But the thing is, there are so many, the term prodigy would imply that you are special, that you're really out of the ordinary. But for me, I see so many of my peers who aren't necessarily called prodigies, but who are very gifted, who are doing great things, who are as smart as I am. And so I think that really we need to understand that there shouldn't be the stratification between gifted, non-gifted, prodigies, not prodigies. It should be everyone's expected to do the best that they can.
What are the 3 character traits you would use to describe yourself?
Okay, I guess artistic. Okay, so you should you say your first one. I need to think.
I mean, wait.
Okay, what would you use to describe each other?
Oh
no! Messy, silly. No, I won't go there. Creative.
Uptight, arrogant. I'm just kidding.
You don't dare. I was being nice. I was taking the high road. You're just going out with attack ads. Use a clip analogy. Alright, I'll get myself in order. For Adriana, I would describe her as artistic, expressive, and
Creative. I don't know. That's the
I
same
just
thing as
said-
artistic.
I would say artistic, expressive, and kind. Okay.
Kind. That's so blasé. If I'm using that term correctly. I mean, I don't know. I think there's got to be something more unique than.
Oh, I know. Okay. Artistic, expressive, and freeform. Okay. Now you.
Okay, let's see. I can't think of anything, but I'm just
Quick, efficient, much more.
Articulate. Well. Okay, / well-spoken. Incredibly intellectual and gosh, there's so many terms I can't sort through them. Okay. How about doesn't bathe very much?
I don't even know. That's not one word. All right. Okay, I know.
I'll think of one later.
That's not.
What?
What are you talking about?
I said I'll think of one later. Anyway.
All right. There's our not very serviceable.
Non-hygienic. Non-hygienic.
Oh, and
That's what
you're
I'm
putting on the mascara all over the back.
If you had to choose, would you say you're a big picture person or that you're more detail orientated?
Am I a big picture person or more detail
I'm
oriented?
detail-oriented. And go on.
Oh, sorry. When it comes to big picture versus details, I've always had difficulty with that question just because I guess I would say I like to, I'm fairly good at making inferences and seeing how things connect to each other. I love to watch the news and see what's going on in the world, but at the same time I'm not really content with just an overview. So I would say I'm usually big picture and I want details on some topics, if that is a little too ambiguous. I guess it just means I want to know I want to have a 101 on everything there is to know, but I want to go more in depth on things that I'm interested in.
I think I'm more detail oriented because when I'm drawing a picture, and I've always had like problems with drawing like little details like eyelashes or something first instead of getting like a full face frame or an outline done.
And when I do a drawing, I always do a very rough sketch. I do the big
I'm
part.
just not really content with that.
And
It's
then-
not perfect.
And then I get bored before I can do
Yeah,
the hair. I don't do every hair as a stroke like my sister does. I'm like, that's hair. I mean,
Fill in with charcoal.
Yeah. So I think that I guess you could say I lean more toward big picture. My sister's a little more detail oriented, but it really depends on the situation.
Would you consider yourself an idealist or a realist?
The idealism versus realism, it again kind of depends on the variables. I suppose that by that answer you could call me a realist because I'm again saying, oh, let me look at this situation. So I like to think that we don't have to always be either or. Sometimes you have to. I talked in my TED speech about how irrationality can sometimes be good. We have so many problems, people would say, that are caused by irrationality, but in this case we need to fight fire with fire, and it sometimes takes crazy thinking in order to fight crazy problems. So I guess you could say that while we need to be realistic about what we're fighting, we also need to be idealistic. And I think it's important to be idealistic because if you set a roof, if you set a limit of, on your ideas, then you won't really get very far.
Exactly what's the differentiation between, I'm sorry, don't give me that look, okay?
Okay,
I know what it is, I know I don't just know precisely what it is.
So idealism would be like more, actually that's a good
lean
question.
towards like idealism, probably because I'm like a dreamer, but
Yeah.
Is that basically what it's?
I would say so. I mean, yeah.
Okay, wait, what else is there to this idealistic realism?
Well, the whole situation, I guess, is, let's say you have a problem. Do you make an outline, think of this is the issue, let's think about this, set limits and that kind of thing, or do you just kind of go off the wall with boom, boom, boom? I'm not sure if that's exactly.
I think I'm more of an idealist than.
Okay, so again, I guess I'm a little bit more of a realist, she's a little bit more of an idealist, but certain opinions.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about your work. Can you tell me about some of your writings?
So I published, as far as my writing goes, I published 2 books. My first one, Flying Fingers, I published at the age of 7. It's a collection of short stories that I wrote. And it's really designed to disarm the kids reading it, that writing is really about fun. It's not all about Dickens and big, thick books. I mean, I love Dickens, but a lot of kids' first impression about writing is that it's something you have to do in school, it's like kind of boring. And so Flying Fingers is meant to show, no, it can be crazy, it can be fun, and to really get your creativity. My second book, Dancing Fingers, which I co-authored with my sister Adriana, is a collection of our poetry. And it's, again, that same approach where we show kids, these are the different types of poetry, but instead of taking a really dry kind of scholastic approach to this is a sonnet, this is a 80-80 rhyme, then we just have our poems, we have them divided into different sections based on category, and you can peruse as the...
Where do you both find your inspiration for those poems?
My inspiration comes a lot from, I'm kind of like the lint cloth or the lint picker-upper thing in the dryer, in that I kind of soak up the ideas from all around me. I get a lot of inspiration from certain words that I might hear. A lot of times in my poems I think of the words for the beginning first, sometimes the way things sound, the things I see on the news, so really a variety of areas.
I kind of am inspired by different, my surroundings, just random words that pop in my head. I like creating imagery in people's minds, so kind of spinning different artistic images into people's heads that normally maybe they wouldn't think of. They're a little bit more unique, I guess. And I like designing words, or putting words together and to create a specific image in somebody's mind. It's a lot different from our poetry, which is rhymes and a specific specific rhyme sequence, and mine is more freeform.
What does creativity mean to you?
To me, creativity means being able to express yourself in a way that not only shows you, puts your ideas out in a way that you like, but also so that I, for instance, looking at slang and deciding whether it's creative, I guess I would ask, what is the purpose? Is this slang that is trying to be something, it's trying to copy someone else? And we see that a lot, where it's trying to stick to a certain format, it's trying to copy someone else's format that works successfully, and really coming up with an original idea. And I mean, drawing inspiration from other sources is fine, but what I see too much of is where movies are trying to copy a successful movie. You know, after Avatar, everyone went 3D, and that was fine, but we really need to think of new innovations. It's what drives us forward. So I guess I would say originality is one of the biggest things, and being able to really think of new ideas.
I think creativity is expressing yourself through different mediums, and just expressing your individual emotions, and sort of using your imagination and creating new ideas, and yeah, new images, new sensations, anything like that.
So originality and individuality in the rhyme.
What's important about literacy and the ability to write, and how do you think it contributes to a person's growth and development?
One of the most important things about literacy to me is that the ability to read and write is a key to a good education. And what's important about education, I mean, we hear a lot about why we need to go to school, blah, blah, but when it comes down to it, it's really a very practical thing, and that's that we live in an age where we have extremism, we have a lot of uninformed people, and where all these problems come from, it really stems from not having an education or not having a good education. And in order to effectively combat the problems, we have to start at the source, and that's the kids who are walking into school every day. How they do in school and what they learn there will affect our world and us in the days to come. So that's something that's really important to me. But on a really basic level, on a personal level, I enjoyed reading and writing very much from a young age. It opened up a lot of doors for me. It opened up whole new worlds of imagination, creativity, and I don't want those doors to be closed for any other kids, or adults for that matter.
Sorry. Yeah, literacy is like a very important medium of expression as well. Like without literacy, like the basic building blocks of literacy, I'm not exactly sure to phrase that, then we wouldn't be able to create different poems or stories or anything. We wouldn't be able to craft those very well, and I think it's very important for kids these days.
What do you think about what's important about music, and how does that affect or contribute to a person's growth?
Music is a really great way to express yourself and express different emotions through any different musical instrument. Sorry. Okay. Yeah, so basically you can express your different emotions, whatever you feel. You can also create your own music, or you can play other composers' music, and it all contributes to, you kind of clear your mind when you're playing an instrument, and yeah, it's a great way to free your expression, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I think that for me, what music is like literacy, and it's another mode of communication, another mode of expression.
It's kind of like a language that everybody understands. You can communicate emotion very easily through music.
Can you tell me about the instruments that you play? And how you play them?
I play piano and violin, and I used to play guitar, and I work on singing, but I played piano for the longest, 9 years, and I think almost 10 actually, anyway, since I was 5, and then I played violin since I was 6, and I can play some chords on the guitar, and I could start working on that again, and then I'm trying to take singing lessons. Yeah.
What do you prefer to do? Is it the piano and the violin?
I guess piano, because I've been practicing it a lot. I don't really practice my other instruments as much, so piano is kind of like the main instrument for me.
Do you write your own music?
I actually tried writing a piece for this competition called Reflections this year, and I don't know if I'll be able to submit it, but yeah, I actually worked on a piece on the piano and for voice too.
Do you get nervous when you perform in front of a large audience?
Yeah, very nervous. I was like, today I wasn't that nervous, but usually like my fingers are shaking and everything, so yeah, I get really nervous sometimes.
How do you prepare before you go up on stage?
How do I get less nervous, or
Just prepare yourself mentally.
I guess like a bit of adrenaline is okay. It kind of gives you a rush and it makes you more excited, and it kind of propels you forward to playing the piece. But you know, it's not like too much nervousness is like really overpowering, especially when your fingers are shivering and everything. How do I prepare myself? You kind of just have to put yourself into the music and let the emotions take over, I guess. Yeah, I'm still working on that. But.
Now you've done a lot of speeches. Do you still deal with nerves before you go up?
I sometimes get nervous a little bit before I go on. It displays itself in different ways. Usually I just, I mean, it's inevitable. That's the way I look at it. So whether it comes in a few minutes or, I think the best way to eliminate nervousness for me is making sure that I have everything prepared. Most of the source of my nervousness before I give a speech is, oh, is the technology going to work? Am I going to forget a line that I really want to say? I mean, that's where a lot of my nervousness comes from these days, which is understandable because I work with a lot of different forms of technology, and so I think that a lot of what's helped me is the fact that I started early when I was 7. I didn't really realize that you were supposed to be nervous. It wasn't a big part of it, and so being able to really chat with the audience and make it personal, interact with them, helps me a lot.
What are some of the things that you've travelled around and you've spoken about? Is it specifically a certain thing that you focus on, or is it a number of different ideas? I know today you talked a lot about things in the classroom and things like that, and I've seen that you've talked about world hunger. Is that your main focus? Is just those two things, or what?
I have a few issues that I focus on. One of my biggest, the one that I started with, is literacy. That's what I talk a lot to kids and adults about, reading and writing, the importance of those. Because I mean, on a basic level, you have to be able to read and write, but on another level, you really should be able to enjoy it, because that's one of the important things that I talk at a lot of schools about. The second issue that I talk to mainly teachers at education conferences, education reform, and education technology, all of which I find really important as we move on into the 21st century. I talked a little bit today about why using those tools is so important. We live in this, should I be?
No, you're good.
Oh, okay. We live in a world that's really increasingly changing and using technology, and it's important that the classroom mirror the real world in that regard.
No, of course. Yeah. I'm next now.
Memory?
Yeah, memory. That the 16 is pretty much full.
Is it 8?
I don't know. Is that done?
Worth a shot?
After,
Dump all of them there.
do we have a computer hooked up or anything?
We don't have time to look it up. No.
Cool. Okay. I'll try and get through these really quickly now.
Yeah, I'll make the
Question
answers a
now?
little shorter.
Any more questions?
Do just a few more. Just a couple more.
Yeah, there's enough room on this. We're good.
Are you
Ready?
ready to pick it up?
No other space.
How does it feel to be a prominent voice of the newest generation?
It's being a voice for a lot of my peers is definitely something that carries a lot of responsibility. I think that obviously I don't claim to be representing everyone. I'm sure that there are kids who might not agree with everything I say, might have other views that are really important to consider. So a lot of what I say is not so much that I represent everyone, it's more that I'm an example of what can come out of when adults listen and learn from kids. So I hope to serve a lot more as an example than a spokesperson, but at the same time to share the ideas that I think a lot of my peers could benefit from.
Do you feel that you're responsible for teaching the generation that will follow you?
I think that teaching is definitely one of the most important roles anyone can have, and when people think of teaching, they probably think of someone in front of the chalkboard, but really a lot of us can have teaching roles as mentors, as friends, and so yeah, I definitely do want to help teach the next generation, and I think that everyone should really play a part in helping to teach someone else.
Do you think it's more beneficial to be taught by a peer than by an adult?
I would say that being taught by a peer versus being taught by an adult really, it really depends on the situation. If it's something that is very complex, that requires, I think that for certain things, it's definitely very beneficial. Sugata Mitra is an education scientist, and at his TED Talk, he was talking about how when kids looked up something online, they discussed it. That really helped them digest the information. When you're able to discuss with your peers, have a talk, have an argument, have a debate, or whatever it is about the issue, I think that really helps the information settle more in your mind. When it's something that is maybe a little harder to explain, or that one of my peers might not feel so comfortable at talking about, I think that adults are really valuable because they have a lot of years of experience in certain fields, and so I think we can still learn from them in many areas. But when it comes down to current events, all kinds of stuff, I like to really discuss that with people my own age as well.
What influence do you think your work has had globally?
My work has had influence globally in a few different ways. One is through my books. They've been translated into different languages like Vietnamese, Chinese, they're in Taiwan. And that's definitely something that I'm very proud of, having that reach in Asia. And when I went on my book tour, being able to talk with students at international schools really where everyone, so that's one way I have the international reach. But also through my speeches, my TED Talk apparently has over 1 million hits in China, which is just incredible. And I get recognized at the airport sometimes by someone who will just walk up and is like, "Are you a dork?" TED Talk. So definitely the global impact is something I'm proud of.
What do you get out of your humanitarian efforts?
My humanitarian efforts, a large part of them, it really makes me feel like I'm contributing to the world. We're all so privileged to be here, to live where we do, and to have the ability to make a difference. And I think that there are so many people who are in such positions of power, but really aren't using that power responsibly. We hear about all the news of these celebrities who have lots of money, who go crashing their cars and doing drugs or whatever, and I think, if I had all of that money and power and fame, you should really go out there and do something, and some people are. So I think that a lot of it is kind of paying back the fact that I'm here and that I'm very privileged.
If you could sum it up in maybe a couple of sentences, what would you say your overall message is that you're trying to send?
My overall message that I'm trying to send to people, both kids and adults, I would say there are a few parts. A big part of, I would say the keystone kind of it is really about learning and teaching. And not necessarily in the structured education form, but just the fact that we can learn from everyone. We can be teachers, and the importance of lifelong learning, whether it's in school or at home or at work, it continues to give us opportunities to expand our knowledge beyond what we thought possible. And in the 21st century, we have so many new tools in order to do that. So it's imperative that we all really embrace the opportunity to not only teach and learn, but also to create and to express ourselves.
I have 3 more questions for you. This is a little off topic. We're also doing another documentary. It's about peace throughout the world. This is to both of you. What is your idea of peace?
My idea of peace, well, again, my idea of peace with the kind of big picture, small details. In the big picture, it's a world without conflict. It's not necessarily a world where everyone agrees, because that would be a boring world. It would be probably a not very good world, but a world where everyone is able to share their ideas and where everyone respects each other's opinions and is able to share them in a respectful dialogue. And I think respect is really a big part of that. We don't necessarily have to all like each other, but at least having that key element of respect. We see so many people today who just have no concern for human life whatsoever. And so being able to respect each other, respect human life, that's my idea of peace.
My idea of peace would be everybody living in harmony together, lots of love like between each other, and a big key part of it is tolerance of other people's opinions and ideas, and yeah, they don't necessarily have to agree, but just to be tolerant of each other's ideas and opinions. What else? I think I think if everybody just gosh, what was I going to say? Sorry. How do I conclude this?
Along.
Huh?
I got along.
Yeah, if everybody gets along and just loves one another, and yeah, no conflict like Adora said. Yeah, I just think tolerance is a big part of it.
Well, I mean, and even for me, I have slightly lower standards than my sister. I guess this is the idealism, realism thing. I mean, we don't really have to love each other, but as long as we aren't killing each other. I mean, that would be an improvement on today with the situations going on. I mean,
I think with no pain for anybody,
it's really
nobody
crazy.
harming another person.
And you know, my sister, you also would apply that to animals. I said human life, but I mean, I think that the way we're treating our environment, the way we're treating animals, I think that those are all things that really need to change.
Yeah, living in harmony with nature and everything, as well as other human beings.
Do you think that peace is something that could ever actually be accomplished?
Well, obviously peace has been talked about for a long time. When it comes down to action, it can be difficult to get along because you know, as siblings, my sister and I, we squabble, and there will always be that kind of undercurrent of, I don't really like you all the time. But to some extent, I think that we can achieve. It really starts with realistic approaches. We have to solve conflicts by looking at the key, the root of them, which is, again, starts with education. But also looking at the way our governments are set up, the way we kind of block off countries, how we're not really treating ourselves as global citizens, but more as I'm from here, I'm from there. So all of these things really contribute to a global society that is a little insulated based on your nation. And so I think being able to have a more connected world, I think this is something the internet can really help us with possibly. So there are some realistic approaches.
Right. Sorry guys,
More answers.
What was the question again? I got distracted by you.
Sorry, that was a long
one.
answer.
Going from there, is it fair to say that everybody?
Oh, right.
What would you say? Would you say that everybody at the end of the day is looking for peace?
Everybody today looking for peace. Well, first I was gonna say, yeah, I think that like all the world in peace is definitely possible, but it might not be immediately achievable without lots of hard work, and it might take a long time unless there's really powerful leaders that are incredibly inspiring. And but everybody today, I think everybody today is probably looking for peace. Like deep down inside, everybody probably doesn't want to fight. But I guess different opinions and different views kind of contribute to arguments and conflicts. So, but kind of depends. I guess most people want harmony, to live in harmony with each other.
I would agree with most people. I'm not sure about all people want peace. I think there are a couple of
Yeah, there are a
few exceptions.
Yeah.
I mean, we see with some really crazy dictators throughout history have just been.
I think it has to
causing
do with
trouble.
like your environment or how you're
Yeah.
raised. So.
I mean, I think that again, it really starts at the root. It starts with
Yeah.
parenting. It starts with education, and ultimately, yeah, there will be a few nutcases out there who are just like, well, let's go invade other countries and make trouble. But I think that if most people want peace, it's achievable at some point.
Kind of depends on what you want, like what you're kind of. Oh, sorry, my mom's making me.
Okay, I have one more question for you. Do you have a quote to end on?
Quote to end on. Let me think of one. I'm not very good at quoting people. I always end up paraphrasing.
I like that one Beatles quote, like all you need is love. I agree with that one, but
Oh dear. Quotes. Not exactly found my quotes today. Okay.
Okay. What would you call our documentary?
I would call it. I'm going for the literal.